Cuba was plunged into darkness as a nationwide blackout swept across the island, leaving its 10 million residents without electricity. The sudden loss of power created a sense of unease and uncertainty among the population, who were left to navigate the night without any light. The blackout, triggered by the powerful Hurricane Oscar, crippled the island's fragile power grid, leaving homes, businesses, and essential services in the dark. The hurricane's ferocity was unprecedented, with winds and rain that battered the island for hours, causing widespread damage. The storm's impact was felt most acutely in the eastern region where it first made landfall, but the outage quickly spread, paralyzing the entire nation. Communities were left isolated and communication lines were down, making it difficult for people to reach out for help. The capital city of Havana, usually a vibrant hub of activity, fell silent, its streets eerily dark and deserted. The usual hustle and bustle of the city came to a standstill, with residents staying indoors, hoping for the power to return soon. The blackout marked the fourth time this year that Cuba's power grid had collapsed, a stark reminder of the country's vulnerability to extreme weather events and its aging energy infrastructure. Each blackout further weakens the already fragile system, making future outages more likely. The government, already grappling with a complex economic crisis, faced mounting pressure to address the escalating energy crisis and provide relief to its citizens. Officials promised swift action, but many Cubans remained skeptical, having heard similar assurances before. The blackout, coming at a time when many were already struggling with food shortages and economic hardship, exacerbated an already dire situation. Families were forced to find alternative ways to preserve their food, and the lack of electricity made daily life even more challenging. The blackout's impact reverberated through every facet of daily life, turning routine tasks into monumental challenges. Simple activities like cooking, cleaning, and even reading became nearly impossible without light. Refrigerators fell silent, leaving perishable food to spoil in the tropical heat. Families had to quickly consume what they could, but much was lost, leading to increased food scarcity. Access to clean water became a luxury as electric pumps failed, forcing residents to rely on bottled water or unsafe sources. The struggle to find safe drinking water added another layer of stress to daily life. Hospitals struggled to maintain essential services, relying on backup generators with limited fuel capacity. Medical staff worked tirelessly under these conditions, but the strain was evident. The sweltering heat, without the respite of air conditioning or fans, became unbearable, forcing many, especially children and the elderly, to seek refuge outdoors. The streets and parks became makeshift shelters. Schools were forced to close indefinitely, disrupting education and leaving parents scrambling to care for their children. The loss of routine and structure affected both students and their families. The lack of electricity brought communication to a standstill, isolating communities and fueling anxiety among the population. People resorted to using flashlights and other means to stay connected, but the sense of isolation was profound. As the blackout stretched into days, pushing the country to the brink, the resilience of the Cuban people was put to the test. Families huddled together, relying on candles and flashlights to navigate the darkness, while businesses struggled to operate under these dire conditions. In a move that surprised many, Cuba took the unprecedented step of appealing to the United Nations for assistance. This was a significant departure from its usual stance of self-reliance and independence. This marked the first time in its history that the island nation had sought international aid to cope with an internal crisis of this magnitude. The appeal was a clear indication of the gravity of the situation and the urgent need for external support. The request for aid underscored the severity of the situation and the Cuban government's acknowledgement of its limited capacity to address the crisis alone. Government officials held emergency meetings, and the president addressed the nation, urging unity and patience. The international community responded with offers of support, but the process of delivering aid to the island remained complex. Aid workers from various countries began preparing supplies, and shipping containers were loaded with essential goods. The ongoing US embargo against Cuba, in place for over 6 decades, presented logistical hurdles and limited the types of aid that could be provided. This embargo has long been a point of contention, complicating efforts to deliver much-needed assistance. Despite these challenges, the Cuban government expressed gratitude for the international community's solidarity, highlighting the importance of cooperation in times of crisis. The sense of global unity brought hope to many Cubans, reinforcing the belief that together they could overcome even the most daunting obstacles. The roots of Cuba's current crisis can be traced back to the COVID-19 pandemic, which dealt a devastating blow to the island's economy. The pandemic brought international travel to a standstill, crippling Cuba's tourism industry, a vital source of revenue for the country. The closure of borders and the imposition of travel restrictions led to a sharp decline in tourist arrivals, depriving the country of much-needed foreign currency. The pandemic also exacerbated existing economic vulnerabilities, exposing the fragility of Cuba's centralized economy. The country's dependence on imports, particularly fuel and food, made it highly susceptible to external shocks. The global economic downturn triggered by the pandemic further strained Cuba's already limited resources, making it increasingly difficult to import essential goods.